Ivano-Frankivsk, in Uzhhorod, in Lutsk, and there are lots of families who would like to stay in Ukraine. They do not want to leave Ukraine. We have lots of people from Muslim countries, Egypt, Jordan. This is Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, and they say we love Ukraine. We do not want to leave Ukraine, but their parents ask them to leave. And there are students who actually have to study for 6 months more and then get their diploma, but they have to leave. We talk to them, they love Ukraine, but now they try to understand what they are going to do. Because, for example, if it's a man and he has a family, he's responsible for that family. So he has to take care of the family. Some people go abroad, and for example, we have a person with Egyptian citizenship and they have been here for 15 years. They decide to come back to their motherland. So that's the case with us. Some people stay, some people leave, some people are trying to understand what they are going to do. These are the students, and the same about the citizens of Ukraine. For example, my relatives, my friends, they were just asking us to find a flat in Lviv. They do not want to leave Ukraine, they want to stay here. There are lots of people from Kyiv, from Kharkiv. There are such small settlements, small towns as Bucha or Irpin. My friends came yesterday and said Bucha was fully destroyed. So we welcomed my friends yesterday, and now they are in Khmelnytsk. They have probably some accommodations there. Funds for the displaced people. We try to get some funding. We have very active Muslim community. Everybody is trying to contribute. People bring food, bring vegetables, bring cereals. We have a place to cook for 150 persons. Well, all Muslim people give me a call and just say we can do this, we can do that, and all together we manage somehow to arrange the process. Are there any mixed marriages? Because, well, definitely not all of them are 100% Muslims. Well, 80% are Muslims, but we do welcome the representatives of other religion. For example, we have a Muslim man and a Christian lady, and we had a case that a lady was a Muslim and a man was a Christian. So we accept and we welcome everybody, be it a Christian, be it a Muslim person. So for me, it's actually an honor to assist people, to help people. Why is it very important for us? And I'm just saying it as a representative of the Muslim religion. God loves those who does something good. And the Prophet Muhammad said, if you help a person in difficult times, your problems will be taken care of by God, and this is the motivation for me. I have small kids. I have a 4 months old son. I have a 4-year-old girl who also need me. And I understand that my family needs me. That I know that if I help, the God will help me. So for me, this is the motivation. And lots of Muslim people are thinking like that and are ready to help. And we see how united people become. Nobody is just saying you are a Christian, you are a Muslim, you are a Jewish person. We are all citizens of Ukraine, and everybody helps, everybody contributes. And this is great. Definitely, it's great evil for Ukraine. I mean, this war and the occupiers, the invaders who come, and you know what happened to Mariupol, to the maternity house yesterday, and the graves. This is the barbaric act. This is too soft a word. As a religious person, we all know, I know, and everybody knows that there will be a judgment day, and everybody will answer to God, personally answer to God what he or she has done in this life. And I know that it is the same idea in Christian and Muslim religion, that this life will come to the end, and each of us will be responsible for our own actions. The Prophet said that everybody is responsible for what he or she has done in this life, and we know that people who commit some evil acts will be responsible to God. And according to Quran, those people who did some arbitrary acts, and they will have the greatest punishment, they will burn in hell. And we know that those people who commit something evil, who do these evil crimes, they will probably live till the end of their days, but we know what will happen on the judgment day. And we know that these people won't be able to get away with it. They will have to answer for all their actions to the God. Here, I would like to say that Imam Murad came to Lviv in 2015 after the events of annexation of Crimea, and the parents of Imam Murad are now in the Crimea. And this is important when we discuss these things, when we discuss the war, and we also touch upon the political issues. And the Crimean Tatars definitely have difficult times in the Crimea right now. Before the program, I have said that there is the information that the Russian Federation intends to repeat the deportation of 1944. You know that you know nothing about it. Thanks God, let's hope it won't happen. But as a Christian person, I would like to say that there are confessions that probably do not voice direct support, but anyway, they support the war of Russia against Ukraine, and they voice it, and we know that this is the Russian Orthodox Church. Are there in Muslim religion any organizations that tolerate these atrocities? Unfortunately, yes. And the reason is they are afraid. And if we are talking about the fact that they are Muslims, it doesn't matter who the person actually is, a Christian, a Muslim, a representative of any other religion. Any evil things are forbidden by Muslims. This is what is said in Quran. But lots of people are keeping silent, and I understand why they keep silent in Russia or in the Crimea. Well, because they are afraid, and there is a law in Russia that if you are going to call the events in Ukraine a war or distribute information about it, you may face 15-year imprisonment. So immediately people are intimidated. But there are lots of people who openly expressed their agreement. They were talking about European bad values, and these values being accepted in Ukraine, and if they accept it in Ukraine, they will be accepted in Russia, and they need, we don't need it. So what is happening in Ukraine is justified. But I think these people were just trained, were taught, and these people say that they are Muslims, that somebody says that he is an imam, but we condemn it. And we have the global organization that brings together all distinguished scholars and scientists. And on the very first day they condemned this war, they stated openly who is the aggressor, and they stated that they were against the war, and they stated that they are against of the Muslim people participating in the war. And actually they said that the Muslim should not participate. The Muslim should not kill, because first of all they kill innocent people, and the second point, a Muslim may kill a Muslim person. But just to kill any person is a sin forbidden by Islam. So, irrespective of displaced people, irrespective of the nationality of people, among displaced people there are men aged 18, 60 who actually will be probably mobilized, and they have to defend Ukraine. So right now there are lots of Ukrainian people defending them. So how do you settle this issue in Islamic Cultural Center when you see a young person who actually could defend the country? This is the choice of every person. Well, this is not forbidden, and it is even welcome. It is even desirable. If you know that you were born here in Ukraine, and here is your family, here are your parents, this is your duty to protect your family, to defend your motherland, to fight for your state. This is the duty of any Muslim person. There are lots of people who are talking about responsibility for their families. Well, we do have imams who still stay in Kharkiv. There are imams who stay in Kyiv. They send their families to Western Ukraine, and they themselves still stay in Kharkiv or in Kyiv. So they help they participate in territorial defense. Let's go back to social issues. At the beginning of our conversation, you said that those who come here will stay here with you till our victory. Life is going on, so how can these people bring their life in order? That's definitely a difficult question. So one day passes, the second, the third, and a person has somehow to find accommodation, to find some ways how to earn a living. So do you see any future for those displaced people, and particularly for the Muslim people? Well, that's really very, very complicated. And I don't know how it will go. It's difficult to find oneself in this life. Let's say, for example, my relatives, they came from Kyiv. They had their own construction company. Everything left there. So will they open a new company here? Well, that's difficult. That's a difficult question. And now people are shocked. And I think that people will try to find some variants, some ideas. Now people are trying to understand what they need, how they will survive. Definitely we are going to help in case we know about any vacant jobs. So if people do something themselves, they will be able to find some jobs, and I believe that everything will be fine. Well, kids have to go to school. How do you settle this issue? As an Islamic cultural center, we so far have not been thinking about it, and we do not have these resources to do it. And we'll have definitely somehow to think about it. We have to communicate with the local authorities what schools will be open, or probably it will be online studies. Well, we do have the orders that all the kids should come back to school. But I think that the parents probably should become more active, find some schools nearby, or use these online platforms. Probably they need some help with this. Definitely. On our part, we shall do whatever possible. We find some contacts with the local authorities, and in case we are asked about the way how people should study, we'll try to help. Now people are just waiting. Now people try to understand where they will live for a month, for 2 months. And after this, I think people will try to understand what should be done. Have you stopped religious schools? And we understand when people are shocked, people are at a loss. They don't know what they should do. And what we have done in our mosque, we have 5 prayers a day, and we have our evening prayer. So after evening prayer, we have organized a sort of a club with reading Quran in Arabic, and we have translation into Ukrainian or into any other languages. For example, if we have a foreign person, we translate into English. And we are discussing separate chapters of Quran. And why we have been doing it? Because it calms people down. You get relaxed a bit, and you start thinking about something positive. You become hopeful. And for me, this is a duty, because a religious person should never be in despair, and it is said so in Quran. Never be in despair, never get frustrated and disappointed. Now there are lots of despaired people, women, kids. They are just alone, they have lost everything, so they don't know what to do. But when we read Quran, when we talk about Quran to them, they become a bit relaxed and they feel better. And this is something we are doing every day. It's not like we have completely interrupted our spiritual teachings. No, spiritual teaching is always there. There should always be some communication with God, and it gives us strength. It gives us something positive. This is a very difficult time, but each of us should be strong. should pull oneself together and should do whatever we can do. When you mentioned the languages, you mentioned Arabic, Ukrainian, English. You have not mentioned Russian. Well, we know that we use Russian. There are lots of Russian-speaking people. Now they say that a new ethnos is being established on the basis of statehood, and some people say that language doesn't matter, and some people say that we are actually to blame for not being able to break away from the Russian peace, Ruski Mir. But if we did it earlier, probably would have less claims about one people, one country, one state, one culture. So this process of getting isolated from the Russian world, I am talking about cultural level, linguistic level, everyday life. Talking about the Crimea. In the Crimea, everybody speaks Russian. Well, the Crimean Tatars. Russian culture has never been very popular and close to the Crimean Tatar. We have our own culture, and it is very rich culture. We are proud of it. I was born in the Crimea. I know our history, our culture. We have always been following the Muslim culture. The 8th of March, we have never been celebrating the New Year. We have never been celebrating the New Year, and we are forbidden to celebrate these holidays. Why New Year is forbidden? Because in Islam, there are only two big holidays, Bayram, and by the way, Ramadan will start on the 2nd of April. So after the Lim is over, we have our holiday and Kurban Bayram. There are only two holidays. We do not celebrate any other holidays. And there are lots of other things. For example, at home, our everyday life. For example, I have never seen Russian culture prevailing with Crimean Tatars. I do not know about Ukrainians. Probably you follow some cultural elements. Well, you state that the Russian language was used as the instrument, as a tool of communication, but culture was different. You know that when the Crimean Tatars were deported, well, my father was born in Uzbekistan, my mother was born in Tajikistan. It was the Soviet Union. Everybody was speaking Russian, and I was born in the Crimea. So when my father came back to the Crimea in 1988, I was born in 1990. Everybody was speaking Russian. For example, at school, it was Russian school. We had the Ukrainian language as a subject, but it was just one of the subjects: Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature. TV. Well, I was starting speaking about the language, not just because we should speak Ukrainian because we are in Ukraine, but just to break away from the Russian world. So you came to Lviv in 2015 and your parents stayed in the Crimea. In the Crimea, we have our religious community, the local community. It was quite big, and we had our center opened, but there was no imam. Right? Who is imam? A priest, an expert in Islam, a person a spiritual leader.
Я вчився за кордоном, я вчився в Ємені.
I studied abroad. I studied in Yemen.
Під кінець 13-му році я закінчив, я
So
приїхав в
at
Крим.
the end of 2013, I came to Crimea, and in 2014, everything started, the annexation of Crimea, and at that time, the community already was following me, and I was given a call, and they said, well, we have an Islamic center in Lviv. If you would like to come here and work as imam, we'll be really happy. I thought, why not go to Lviv? It will be sort of a challenge for me, and my father actually wanted me to stay in the Crimea, but he understood that I won't have any progress here, and definitely I won't be able to say what I could say. And father,
Ісламський культурний центр у Львові імені Мохаммада Асада. І доречно згадати Леопольда Вайса. Два слова буквально, бо наш час добігає кінця. От скажіть цю історію. Леопольд Вайс, Мохаммад Асад.
Так, Леопольд Вайс, він львів'янин, який народився у Львові. Він дуже в мусульманському мірі, він дуже видатний людина. Він засновник Пакистану. Також він, скажімо так, для європейців він відкрив іслам з іншої сторони. Тому що в той час європейці, вони дуже погано, було дуже багато стереотипів стосовно ісламу. Але він дуже багато був в Австрії, в Іспанії, в Англії. І він, скажімо так, відкрив очі, тобто вони дивилися, почали дивитися на іслам, тобто по-іншому. І коли ми відкривали наш ісламський культурний центр, і ми дуже багато думали, як це можна зробити асоціацію зі Львовом. І от прийшла така от ідея назвати імені Мохаммада Асада Леопольд Вейса.
Дуже гарний львів'янин, ну його Вейс, Вайс, по-різному називають, гарний львів'янин, який дав приклад цієї поєднання культур, релігій, взаєморозуміння. На основі гуманізму, на основі високих ідей, на основі віри в єдиного Бога.
Так.
Дякую вам за те, що прийшли.
Дуже вам дякую.
У вас багато було роботи, ми розуміємо. Дякуємо за цих півгодини.
Дуже вам дякую. Молимося за Україну. Я сподіваюся, і я в цьому впевнений, що все буде добре. Тому що зло, воно не може бути вічним. І справедливість – це те, що вони завжди буде перемагати. Це 100%, тому що Всевишній він казав: «Інна Аллах я'муру біль-адль». Всевишній Бог, він приказує вам бути справедливим. І це справедливість, в цьому я не сумніваюся, що все буде добре, і справедливість, вона завжди перемагає.
Вже тільки ваші слова та вуста Бога. Я розумію, що це не релігійно в даному випадку, але з великою надією і з великою вірою.
Don't really have to focus on religion, but still, definitely, we are praying, we will be praying, everything will be good. Thank you.
І на оновленій землі врага не буде супостата, а буде син, і буде мати, і будуть люди на землі.
Доброго вечора, ми з України. Доброго вечора, ми з України.
І на оновленій землі врага не буде супостата, а буде син, і буде мати, і будуть люди на землі.
Повертаємося у студію телеканалу «Перший Західний».
We are back at the studio of the Перший Західний TV channel. Irina, Stanislav, we have another guest, but we have some updates. Mr. Lavrov met with Mr. Kuleba, our Minister of Foreign Affairs. As Mr. Kuleba mentioned, there is no progress in terms of ceasefire. The Russians continue insisting on Ukraine's surrender. So basically, they want us to adhere to the requirements of the main terrorist on the planet. And there's another piece of news. Mr. Lavrov does not really exclude the possibility of a meeting between Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Putin. And he says that it might happen somewhere in the direction of Belarus. But these are just expectations and plans as per Mr. Lavrov. But we are transitioning to another important topic for our Lviv region, the topic of medicine. We have a guest from the Lviv Regional Administration, Mr. Chimaris. Welcome. There's one question that everyone is concerned about. Ambulances running around the city, and there are more and more of them. To the best of our understanding, these are our service members arriving from the eastern part of Ukraine. How many are they? What is the current situation? You are right. We have soldiers here from the eastern part of Ukraine and from other hotspots. They arrive by train. They arrive every day by dozens. They all receive required medical assistance. Most of them are in medium state of severity. We don't really have any service members in severe condition, because if someone is really bad, then usually they receive medical treatment on the ground. We still have sufficient beds in our military hospital, and these military service members are ready to support later if necessary. So they are receiving required rehabilitation. All the healthcare institutions in Lviv are ready. We have a hospital for combat veterans in Vindniki. We have sufficient medical supplies, human resources, so we are fully prepped to provide high-quality medical aid. Is the situation the same in all the regions? Not really. Lviv region is still a hub region because we have the Western Ukrainian military and medical hospital. This is the main medical healthcare institution in the western part of Ukraine, and that's why they receive most of our injured soldiers and service members. And since this hospital is based in the city of Lviv, it is loaded first. Well, we need to understand that the ambulances that you can see do not carry only Lviv residents. So basically, we can have injured soldiers here from other parts of the country as well. Yesterday, we received stats 140 injured, well, as of today, 159.
Андрій Кочкий теж допомагав хлопців привезти. Це в основному стрілецька зброя, якісь там поранення ніг, рук, плечей.
As far as we understand, most of the injuries are caused by small arms.
Це якраз тип тих поранень, які перечислили.
Yes, you are right. Usually we have limbs injured. So these are patients that are in medium condition, as I have already mentioned, and they just require some medical aid.
Кількість повідомлень про те, що шпиталь чогось потребує, і тоді, якщо на початку цих активних дій було багато і
We don't really have that many messages or requests from the military hospital, but still I want to ask, are there any specific needs in the hospital? You are right. At the beginning of the war, there was some panic. There were a lot of people spreading disinformation and fakes, and so you could see in different groups in channels that there was a shortage of medical supplies and medications, but as of today, our military hospitals are equipped with all required medications. The same is true about civilian healthcare institutions, but the war continues. We are into the second week of the war. The first wave of concern and worry is already dissipating. The level of emotions is gradually reducing. Now we can be more cold-minded. We are in a war, and that requires common sense, cold mind. We need to be very rational, and we need to understand what to do and how to act. We continue our work. We are in tight cooperation with the military hospital. We have a good understanding of the current state of play. We are ready to stand by one another, and whenever there are some requests, we are ready to respond to them. But is it right that the government supports as well, so it's not only the responsibility of the regional administration? Well, as for the medical professionals, they work under the Ministry of Defense, but there's good cooperation and interaction with the Ministry of Healthcare. We receive all instructions, we develop some of the documents ourselves. We have all the things that we need for our activities. These efforts are coordinated. We have daily meetings on a daily basis. We are in communication with the Ministry of Health, with deputies. So everyone is on the ground, everyone is doing their job. We can feel the support and understanding of the government. And right now we have harmonized and well-established communication. We also collect information on the needs of other regions, and whenever possible, we try to support. We want to create a robust home front here. Apart from the military, we also have some military service members and civilians that were in hospital even before the outbreak of the war. And you might have heard that children are evacuated on a regular basis. We have some of these children on the territory of Lviv region. In Lviv region, we identified those centers that coordinate their activities with the international partners, the Western Ukrainian Medical Center, the Lviv Regional Hospital. They try to send children for treatment abroad. But so far, all our healthcare institutions continue working business as usual. What is the number of evacuees from other parts of the country in our hospitals? Well, if we're talking about children, these are children from the Охматдит hospital in Kyiv. Most of them have already been transported to Lviv. The Western Ukrainian Medical Center admitted most of these children. The local Охматдит hospital has some of these children. We also engaged some children's departments in general healthcare institutions. So we do have these patients. but we do our best to provide them with required medical treatment. We also have some patients in Vinniki, in the local hospital. As for the Vinniki hospital, yesterday we received some information about equipment that was delivered there, and this is the equipment that was transferred by the international partners. Is everything fine with medical equipment, or maybe you need some specialized equipment to treat injured soldiers? We have all the necessary medical supplies and equipment to meet the basic needs, but if we can access any state-of-the-art equipment is always useful. So we are open to humanitarian aid, but we try to coordinate humanitarian efforts with all the stakeholders because we have a grasp on things. We know best where this equipment will be most handy. There's a multitude of international donors who are interested in working with our healthcare institutions because these patients will be evacuated from hotspots, and most of them will be moved here to the city of Lviv because so far the city is safe, even though we cannot really make any forecasts. So we do have donors. They approach different institutions. As I have already mentioned, we are open and we are very grateful for any support and assistance. We will try to do everything possible to make sure that we have such equipment in our institutions, because these patients and IDPs will require medical assistance and treatment. I can see that already based on the number of people asking for medical help, and I'm sure that this number will be increasing. So we try to obtain required medical equipment. If the conflict continues, we have to be ready, because now we already see an influx of people in Lviv region. On March the 6th, the Prime Minister of Israel said that field hospitals would be deployed in Ukraine, I guess in the western part of Ukraine. When, how, where exactly? This is true. We partnered with the Embassy of Israel. In the past several days, we had several meetings. There are specific requirements for the deployment of such a field hospital, and the decision has already been made on the location. It's in Mostyska. This field hospital will be deployed in the vicinity of the Mostysk district hospital. It's like a square between the hospital and a local school. So the location has already been decided on. Some technical specifications are being aligned. And as soon as everything is settled, we will communicate further information on the services that will be provided there, the groups of patients that will be treated there. We expect that during the upcoming weekend, we will receive equipment for this field hospital, and then on Sunday, Monday, the hospital will be deployed. Will you have only Israeli doctors there or local ones as well? Well, we will definitely have Israeli medical professionals. They will be coordinating this endeavor, but we will engage the local healthcare professionals as well. The idea of this field hospital is to teach our medical staff to work in such conditions. This will be the first time that we will deploy a field hospital on the territory of the Lviv region, so it will be a great opportunity for our medical staff to acquire this invaluable experience, and they will be working side by side with their Israeli counterparts. What about the equipment? Will it be fully supplied by the Israelis? Exactly. So this field hospital will be deployed completely, including the equipment, by the Israelis, because we want to ensure its full functioning. We know that you had similar negotiations with the Poles. Are there any results? Well, to be honest, we have been negotiating with multiple partners with regard to field hospitals. we decided to reduce or minimize the number of such field hospitals. We have sufficient beds in our civilian hospitals and healthcare institutions, so why deploy field hospitals if we still have sufficient reserve beds in all our healthcare institutions? It doesn't really make sense. But it's not that we are flat against it. Well, first of all, we do understand that we cannot really predict the future situation. We can see that the number of visits is increasing, the load on the healthcare system is going up, so we definitely need to have this experience, and we are ready to learn. We really hope that these field hospitals will not be that needed, because hopefully the situation will be under control. But once again, we need to be ready. So if you want peace, you need to prep yourself for war. The Ministry of Health informed that about 1,500 foreign doctors agreed to work in Ukraine. How many of them are already in Lviv region? Lviv region is a pioneer in this area because we are the closest to the border. We have already communicated with several organizations, and they suggest engage doctors. I think that about 20 medical professionals are already based in Lviv region. These doctors are in close contact with our medical professionals. They are exploring our medical infrastructure. They are studying the preparedness of our healthcare system for emergencies. At this point, we are coping quite well. But it's been only 2 weeks, and the staff of the military hospital, for example, have had to work overtime. The medical resources are not infinite. In the future, we will definitely have to engage some additional medical staff. So this assistance will definitely come in handy. So we will definitely engage such medical professionals. There are even medical staff who are ready to go to the hotspots. Not all of them want to work in the home front. They want to be closer to the contact line, to the front line. Right now, we are in the process of crafting the procedures for engaging such medical professionals. A week ago, about 50 ambulances were purchased by the Ministry of Health. Did you receive some of them? Or maybe you are planning to have your own procurement? Objectively, there's no need for additional ambulances in Lviv right now. So the Ministry of Health sent all these ambulances to those regions where they are more needed. Even before the war, we had a sufficient reserve of ambulances. We have a good fleet of medical vehicles. We receive some signals from the east, and sometimes ambulances in hospitals and maternity wards are also targets. Doctors and healthcare professionals are subjected to shelling as well. So the focus right now is on those regions that need medical equipment and ambulances most. No problems so far. If someone donates medical equipment or ambulances, we try to forward that assistance to other parts of the country. So right now we have family doctors. What about those people who come here, the refugees? They don't have their family doctors here. How can they receive a referral? In war times, the medical guarantees program is functioning in a different way. So basically, this program is on a hold right now. In war times, there's just a global budget, and the healthcare system is funded from state subventions. So no concerns here. Whoever asks for medical help, whoever requires a medical consultation, they can still do it here, even if they don't have their family doctor, even if they don't have a signed declaration here. So there are no restrictions whatsoever for those people who require medical help. And it doesn't really matter whether this is primary care or secondary care. You can just go to the nearest doctor. Well, COVID is still here. The vaccination process is still in progress. Do people continue coming for first, second, or third shots? Well, exactly, you're right. COVID-19 is still with us, but it's taken a back seat. We don't even really respond to any messages about COVID. But on a daily basis, we do hospitalize about 30 to 40 patients. The vaccination process is still in progress, but we have special vaccination rooms for that. You can get vaccinated in outpatient institutions, in polyclinics. There are still people who want to get vaccinated, but we don't really have a massive demand for vaccination. Because right now there are no restrictions for the unvaccinated. So the vaccination rate has reduced. I have a point of clarification. Elective surgeries have been postponed, but if I want to take a blood test to find out whether to receive my third shot, for example, can I do that? Well, you are right that elective surgeries have been postponed. A lot of them have been. If you do need to have a medical examination, if you want to, you do need to receive required medical help. But we limited scheduled admissions because we want to have some free reserve for military purposes. I have another question of theoretical nature. A lot of women and children are evacuated, pregnant women are evacuated. You take her to a perinatal center, she delivers, she stays there for some time, and then you let her go. Is it possible for such women to stay longer in the perinatal center? As of now, healthcare institutions offer medical help. As soon as medical help has been offered, we refer such patients to social protection institutions, and they are responsible for follow-up and care. Right now, we can still accommodate people in other institutions apart from healthcare institutions, but healthcare institutions have to provide all medical help. As for children, we have multiple families with children here in Lviv now. Can you see an increased load on children's hospitals? And are the hospitals coping with this influx? You are right, there's more strain on primary healthcare institutions. There are more requests from IDPs and refugees, which is natural, because there are a lot of people who received preferential or privileged medications, and they require supervision by a doctor. So the load is increasing, but we are ready for it. We need to provide medical aid as soon as possible, and at this point there are no obstacles on the way of receiving either medical help or medications. In the recent days, we've been talking a lot about insulin. What's the current state of play? Because at first they said that supplies would suffice for 2 months, then 3 months. We don't really have enough insulin, but we are coordinating with our partners. Right now in Lviv region, we have enough insulin. We have more insulin-independent people in Lviv region right now, considering IDPs and refugees, but we have sufficient reserves. And in the past several days, we have sent some insulin to the east, to those regions where the situation is critical. So no problems whatsoever. What about your cooperation with the international partners aimed at evacuating cancer children or other children with special needs? This cooperation is well established. The key stakeholder here is the Western Ukrainian Medical Center. There's good coordination within Ministry of Health. Of course, it's important where our children go, to which clinics, and what happens to them when the treatment is over, because it's not only about sending them somewhere. We don't want moms to have to look for their children later. We have a clear understanding of which hospitals will be used, who our partners are. And in Lviv region, we have the regional hospital and the Western Ukrainian Medical Center. These are the two institutions that coordinate these efforts, but under the auspices of the Ministry of Health. The leadership of hospitals know the procedure, they know where to refer such patients, and these patients can receive high-quality help and then be back home. To the best of our understanding, 80 children have already been moved abroad. They are accompanied by parents, right? Or one of the parents. They can't go there on their own. Exactly. They are accompanied by parents. Tomorrow or on Saturday, we expect some more children to be referred to treatment. It's a continuous process. Almost every day, we meet them at the railway station and refer them to the right healthcare institutions. You are not responsible for the private sector, but what about private clinics and private dentist offices? Are they ready to work? During the first days of the war, they didn't operate, but some major players of the healthcare market did stay. Now we can see that gradually people are reverting to work. Emotions subsided, but in general, as I have already mentioned, that the situation in the Lviv region is safe and controlled, and it means that we need to go to work, we need to do our job, because it will be nurturing our economy. We are in a war, and if we just idle and twiddle our thumbs, then nothing good will come out of it. So each and everyone has to understand their responsibility. You have to do whatever you can, whatever is possible within your capacity where you are. This is the greatest support that we can offer to our country. If we just sit and worry, it will not help. And the last question, have you received any requests from internally displaced doctors and medical professionals who want to be employed here? We do have cases like that, so we have some internally displaced doctors and medical professionals who are ready to work in Lviv region. We already have some doctors who operate, who work, whose help and support. Once again, the need is not that big right now, but at least we have a database of these medical professionals now. and these people are registered in Lviv region and they can be legally employed. Yevhen Khmara was our guest recently, a pianist, an artist, and he will be giving a concert at the Chernobyl Children's Hospital. I know that in the previous years, when this hospital was overloaded because of the known events, different people would come and try to motivate and raise the spirits of the patients. Do we have something similar right now? Are there any processes that are taking place in parallel? Well, some events are organized, but they don't really have mass nature. Sometimes some performers and artists come to support our medical professionals, and such events are extremely important. You need to distract from time to time, because most of us are stuck in work 24/7. This is our duty, and it's conditioned by the current situation. So it's always welcoming when you can distract, when you can find a source of inspiration and motivation. So we hail such initiatives. We have to take care of our mental health in the first place. Because if everything is good with our mental health, then we will have a better productivity and we will be able to take quick and right decisions. Well, good physical and mental health to you, Mr. Oras Chamaris, Director of the Healthcare Department from Lviv Regional Military Administration. And we are waiting for the next guest, and now we will show yet another address of President Zelensky. Ukrainians, at night, we received information about the casualties during yesterday's bombardment of maternity ward in Mariupol. We lost 3 people, a child, a girl being one of them. We have 17 injured people, children, women, medical professionals. You know, on Russian TV, they raised this topic, but they didn't say a single word of truth. They lied to the Russians that ostensibly there were no patients at the hospital and there were no women and children at the maternity ward. The Russians were fed with some lies of ostensibly nationalists holding their positions there. They are lying with confidence as always. You cannot really justify a crime unless you have propaganda guys who can do that. You will be responsible for these atrocities, along with those people who give orders to bombard civilian infrastructure. We will find all these people. We will do our utmost to confiscate your assets. You love luxury, don't you? You love traveling, but you will not have that. You will be deprived of that. And it's just the beginning. You will definitely be brought to justice for co-participation in criminal activity. And then you will be hated by the citizens of Russia. Those people who you have been deceiving for multiple years, when they feel the consequences of your lies, when they feel the tangible effect in their wallets, because their opportunities will be reducing, the future of their children will be stolen. Whenever there's sorrow, it does not go alone. It always inflicts both the victim and the aggressor. But the aggressor gets the message a little bit later, but always understands and will endure the suffering. Right now, we are organizing humanitarian corridors for our cities. The buses are already en route, the trucks are already en route with food, water, medications. Volnovakha, Mariupol, Izum, Suma, and the region, multiple other cities and towns of Kyiv region, Bucha, Horyanka, Irpin, Hostomel. My heart is bleeding when I see what the occupants have done to our cities, to our country. And I feel heartsick when I see what they want to do with our people, those people who require urgent assistance. The Russian troops have already caused a humanitarian catastrophe in our country, but this is part and parcel of their plan. They want to humiliate our people. I guess they want our people to kneel down and beg them for food and water. They want our people to save their lives by the occupied territories to Russia. That's why they are blocking Mariupol, they are blocking Volnovakha and other cities. The occupants commit these atrocities purposely because they want to create some scoop stories for their propaganda TV channels. Yesterday, every hour, I received some updates on the number of people who were transported to the fifth of Ukraine. Yesterday, within 24 hours, we were able to rescue upwards of 60,000 of our citizens. This is something that I discussed with German Chancellor Mr. Scholz. I communicated the atrocities that our people are subjected to. I conversed with the French President, Mr. Macron, and during my conversation with Boris Johnson, I felt that our anti-Putin coalition is getting stronger and stronger, and the pressure on Russia for the sake of peace will be ratcheted up as well. We want to be very concrete in our interaction with the global leaders and European leaders. We are fighting indeed. We are fighting for our independence, for freedom, for equality for everyone on our continent. That's why, from our partners, we want to see decisions that are grounded in reality and not in empty statements or abstract reflections. These days, the EU leaders will get together to discuss the war of Russia against Ukraine, to discuss our EU membership application. We are waiting for a concrete signal. We expect solid support because that will be fair, that will be human, that will be European. We know exactly who has which position. We know very well who is for us and who thinks that EU is just about accounting, proceeds and expenditures. But we will continue working, we will continue persuading them. Life will persuade them. Ukrainians, our defenders, both male and female, we all are defending our country for 15 straight days. We have withstood. The Ukrainian army is fending off attacks in the key directions, thanks to our military, National Guard, State Border Guard Service, territorial defense, and all those who contributed to the defense. We have not become slaves, and we will never be, because this is part of our spirit. I take pride in our armed forces. After the war, after our victory, we will rebuild everything that has been destroyed, and we will do it within a short time frame, and we will do it with top-notch quality. For each affected city, we will launch a standalone restoration and rebuilding program. Житомир, Охтирка, Ізюм, Mariupol, and all the other beautiful cities and towns where evil showed its true face. There will be not a single trace of the Russian invasion. The best architects, the best companies, the best designs for every city. And I would like to refer to Kharkiv as an example. Our Kharkiv, a city that is taking the brunt of it, a city that is enduring something that they have not seen since World War II, Saltivka and some other neighborhoods. Maybe this name tells you nothing, but believe me, the Svobody Square in Kharkiv will become a magnet for everyone. The Poltava Way, Bilhorodsky Highway, the Regional Children's Hospital, the Kharkiv Cancer Center, Karazin University, Labor Palace, Korolenko Library. We will rebuild all these facilities. You have my word for it. the
І
Kharkiv
це
residents will
по-справжньому.
see that
Слава Україні!
Ukraine exists for them and it will be something genuine, something authentic.
Повертаємося
Glory
у
to Ukraine.
студію. Крайнє звернення Володимира
Back to the
Зеленського
studio,
є.
you've just seen
Нагадуємо,
the last
що за результатами
of President
перемовин, які
Zelensky.
відбулися сьогодні
We would like
у
to
Туреччині
remind
між
you
міністрами
that as a
закордонних справ
result of
України,
negotiations in
Туреччини
Turkey between
і Росії, що головне,
ministers
між
of
Україною
foreign
і
affairs of
Росією,
Turkey,
з'явилася
Ukraine, and
інформація про
Russia.
ймовірність зустрічі Володимира Зеленського
Now,
із Володимиром Путіним, але про це сказав лише
there are
міністр
some
закордонних справ Росії Лавров,
speculations
і то лише
about
припустив.
potential meeting
І
between
тут
Mr.
важлива
Zelensky
деталь,
and
що
Mr.
нібито ця
Putin,
зустріч можлива
but it's just an
на
assumption,
білоруському напрямку. Будемо
and
стежити за цією
potentially this
ситуацією.
meeting
Рівно
might
ж як
take
за
place
ситуацією, яка у нашому регіоні. Маємо у
in the
студії нову
vicinity of
гостю.
the
Це
Ukraine-Belarus border.
Лілія
And
Свастович,
now we have in
директорка
UCAST
санаторної
Lilia Svastovich,
школи. Пані Лілю, вітаємо
the
вас. Слава
director
Україні.
of the Lviv
Школа
Vindiki
зараз
Sanatorium School.
ліг дуже великий тягар, бо
This
дуже
school
багато шкіл змушені
has
приймати,
a big burden
не
on
змушені,
its
це
shoulders
їхній
right
обов'язок,
now
так, приймати
because
діток і
a
з
lot of
батьками чи без
schools
батьків, які
have to
переїхали з
or
інших
feel
регіонів, де
that they
ведуться
should
активні дії. Ваша
accommodate
школа, так розуміємо,
families,
також є
parents,
однією
and
з таких
children
шкіл. Скільки
from
у
the
вас дітей?
hotspots.
Що
To the
це
best
за
of my
діти? Чи
understanding,
вони з
your school
батьками
is
самі,
one
бо у
of
вас
such
санаторна школа
facilities.
трошки інший варіант, ніж
Am I
звичайної
right? Because
загальноосвітньої.
you're not a regular school, you are a sanatorium school. We are a regional institution, and we were delegated the responsibility to accommodate children either from orphanages or care homes. So basically, these are children with the instructors or teachers without any other adults. Since the 28th of February, we have accommodated two groups from Kyiv region, from Volodar and Snyatівка. And altogether, we have about 60 children, including those instructors that accompany them. In one group, we have orphans, and we found dwellings for them with the support of Father Leonti. And now they are in Poland, and they are accommodated in an orphanage. But there's also one child there, 2.2 years, and this child was in poor condition, health-wise, and we joined forces with the Department of Education, and we sent this child to a local care home. Now we have about 20 children from Volodarsk specialized boarding school, and these children live in our school, and we are working with them. Are they accompanied by adults? Yes, they came here with two instructors, and when they arrived at night, no one wanted to stay with them. Everyone wanted to go back and just leave these children with us. I was really frustrated about it because we didn't know those children. They all are anxious and under stress. It was important for them to have adults who they know, but they spent only 4 days with us. Nonetheless, we made friends with them. These children are very open, and when we were sending them to Poland, everyone had tears in their eyes, hugged and embraced one another. We continue being in touch with them. They're feeling good there in Poland. But the children that are still in your school, are they also accompanied by adults? Yes. There are two instructors that also live in our school. We have our own teachers who work with them, psychologists, some art therapy classes. We engage our friends from the Granat art studio because art therapy is always a good tool. Well, we do understand that a sanatorium school is not a regular school. How are they accommodate there, because when we see some photographs from secondary schools in Lviv, you can just see some sleeping mats, mattresses on the floor. How is the situation with you? Well, you do know that most boarding schools and care homes have been closed down, so we have only 44 children who stayed at night, only 44 beds, but fortunately we haven't thrown out all the beds. We have 64 beds, and we also have thick mattresses that we put on the floor. Right now we have 64 regular beds and 83 mattresses. So, and these are the mattresses where you can have a comfortable sleep, but these mattresses will be used as a backup. We do understand that in the near future more and more children will be coming in from the encircled parts of the country, so hopefully they will arrive here and we are ready for them. So you are in need of beds, right? Well, if someone can donate, please do so. Someone even said that it's good that the reform of boarding schools and care homes has not been completed. Those children who lived in your school, I assume that you had some children like that. Yes, we did have some. So how many children did you have locally who stayed at night? When the war was announced, I went to school at 6 o'clock in the morning because we had some children sleeping there, even from other regions of Ukraine. We contacted their parents, and the parents wanted to be with their children. I can identify with the anxiety on the part of the parents. That's why most of our children went back home. We had one boy from Dnipropetrovsk region, and we transferred him to the football academy. And right now he's in Slovenia together with some other boys from the football academy. So he's in Slovenia together with some other football players. We definitely support our children because we have children in difficult life circumstances, and we provide them with snacks, with box lunches. We're very grateful to our friends from Warsaw and some other Polish cities because we have some friendly schools there. We have already received big cargoes, and we can provide all our children with all essentials. So, as far as I understand, your cooks are feeding your children, so you can accommodate them, you can feed them. Exactly, we provide them with 3 meals per day. We can also treat them to some goodies, because some of the children have parents in the war zone. They cannot be in contact with them, so we need to mitigate this anxiety somehow. Well, maybe you need some help from Lviv-based children. I have 3 of them at home because they don't want to study, they don't want to clean, so maybe they can help you with educating these children in your school. But jokes aside, we discussed something with Bogdan Tycholos. To the best of my knowledge, his children studied in your school. There's this project, the Children of Ukraine, entertainment for bravery, and the idea is to involve artists, performers, musicians, writers, to encourage them to come to those facilities where children are accommodated right now and offer some classes. So if you need something along these lines, if you want to keep your children busy and entertained, you can also join. You have good cooperation with Norway, not Norway, but the Netherlands. Are you still communicating with them under such circumstances? Are they offering their help? Definitely. during the first 2 days of the war, I was inundated with letters and requests. Georgia, Poland, the Netherlands, Switzerland. These are the countries where we have our friends and partners, and they all express their willingness and readiness to support. So there are offers, but they cannot host large groups of children. They can accommodate only small groups because they want to create appropriate conditions for them. They cannot maintain large groups of children because they don't really have schools like this, but are open to welcome small groups of children. But we are coping so far. We still have some children in our school, but we are negotiating with Spain right now. Spain is ready to host them, but this procedure has stalled because of documentation. The originals of their birth certificates are located in their homes, so maybe we will produce copies with my signature and my seal. What's the age group? These are children in the 6th through the 11th grades, so older children, because we have already sent younger children away. I have a short list of pages that I follow, and I can see that you have been receiving enormous humanitarian aid. What kind of humanitarian aid is that? Is it for the military, or you transfer it to other schools and care homes in the hotspots? You are right. We are receiving humanitarian loads, and we try to make sure that they include only the essentials. We contacted the hospital, and they informed me that some special devices were necessary to treat the wounds of our soldiers. They're quite expensive, 90 to 100,000 each. We have already purchased 2 of them and transferred them to the hospital, and I think that in the near future we will procure about 5 additional pieces from Warsaw. Also, medications, a lot of medications. Some of the medications were given to the hospital or directly to the front line. I have some friends and contacts in the territorial defense. For example, Sergey Chumachenko is in Zhytomyr region. Sergey Chumachenko is an educational expert, business coach, and his dream is to establish such schools in Ukraine that will change our society. Something along the lines of the Scandinavian education system, because any adult can receive education there, and this is free. And these adult schools contributed to the transformation of the mindset of the Scandinavians. And now we know that in Scandinavia we have some of the happiest people on our planet. So Sergey is in the territorial defense right now, right? And yes, he's in the territorial defense, and he's supporting with medications. The day before yesterday, we put together a truck. Yesterday, we sent some sleeping mats, drugs, and dry food to Kyiv, so we still have plenty of humanitarian aid. There are some schools who have not received any aid, and we share to the best of our capacity.
ухвалити рішення про відновлення
Before the 9th of March, educational institutions in Lviv region were supposed to make up their mind about continued education and studies, either online or offline if schools are not used for accommodating refugees. What about your school? Are you planning to resume the training process? It's obvious that we will have online learning. This is something that children need. We already had this first class or a sort of conversation yesterday, because yesterday we celebrated.
Я не можу сказати символ, бо це і людина, і в той же час є такий і пророк.
Yesterday we celebrated our symbol and our prophet, Taras Shevchenko. Because when you read his poems, you realize that he definitely knew something. And during this meeting yesterday, I could see that children were thirsty for communication. They were really eager to see their teachers. And they all put on embroidered shirts. It was comforting. And they did miss their teachers. And the teachers missed their kids. So as of Monday, we will resume education. Unfortunately, not everyone will be able to join because not all our students have gadgets. We are trying to come up with some ideas and options right now. We want to make sure that all our children will be connected because they all are under stress. There are a lot of conversations about the war at home. And under such conditions, children are often overlooked and neglected. And later we will have to harvest the negative consequences. We need to listen to our children. It's paramount. What about these IDP children? Are you going to incorporate them into the training process? Definitely, we are already doing that. But what about the online training that you're going to have as of Monday? Definitely. I mean, so far we've had classes with them offline. We will not really offer that many classes, about 3 per day, because we don't want to overload them. We have to wrap up. But I made 2 conclusions. If there are any specific needs from other schools, they can approach you, right? So this is the Vindniki Sanatorium School. If you have any specific needs, please approach them. If there are gadgets that you want to share, please transfer them to the Vindniki School, and then the Vindniki School will distribute them to their students who unfortunately cannot join classes online because they don't have required devices and gadgets. Well, we need to ask the Lviv regional administration to seize some contraband at customs. Lilia Svestovich, the director of the Vindniki Sanatorium School, thank you very much for having found the time, for having come here from the town of Vindnika. I'm sure that it was a challenging journey because there are several checkpoints. We do need to help everyone. It's important, but keep in mind that we have a humanitarian hub. What is the situation there? There's a TV story that was put together by ПЕРШИЙ ЗАХІДНИЙ. The regional humanitarian hub receives trucks 24/7. The volunteers unload, sort out, and distribute to other locations, in particular to those cities that suffered because of the hostilities. There's a shortage of hands and human resources. There are multiple there are many volunteer centers, but not everyone knows about them. So usually everyone comes here and we don't really have enough people to unload. Guys, volunteers, please go outside to unload trucks. The humanitarian aid includes food, personal hygiene items, water, and mattresses. There's a deficit of military equipment. The guys from the east are asking for thermal thermal imaging cameras
Окрім цього, щодня
and
до штабу
some
звертаються
other
по допомогу
equipment.
понад 500 біженців. Вони
Besides
насамперед
that,
потребують
about
їжі,
500
медикаментів та
refugees
теплого
come to
одягу.
the humanitarian hub for help. They need food, water, and hot meals, or warm clothes. It's heart-wrenching to see these small kids in pajamas because they don't really have any time to flee. Each refugee fills out an application form, and then they receive everything that they need. It took us about 1.5 hours, and then we received everything that we needed, like winter clothes, because it cooled down. Medications and food products. The volunteers include not only residents, but also refugees themselves. When Kyiv was bombarded, I decided to leave, move here, but I also want to be of help. We have come here to lend a helping hand to people. Right now, we are sorting out personal hygiene items and medications. There's a need for more human resources. The Lviv Maltese service is asking volunteers to bring children's food and children's items. We need a wide variety of purees, but even if you bring some mixes or any other children's food, we are happy. Today, we sent a large batch of children's food to Kharkiv. We also need personal hygiene items like diapers, detergents, soaps, because it's important for people to feel stability. If you have the time, desire, and opportunity to help, please join the ranks of volunteers. Hands are always in demand. We are back at the studio, Перший Західний TV channel. Before we start conversing with our next guest, some good news. 44 evacuation buses left Izum, about 2,000 civilians, women, children, elderly people, and people with disabilities in the first place. Their final destination is Dnipro, and if wanted, they can also proceed to other parts of the country. Izum received some humanitarian loads, medications, food, clothes, and one more piece of information. We were intimidated by Iskanders, but one of our military units destroyed the Iskander M division that was pounding the eastern part of Ukraine. We have Andriy Dzюman, a famous entrepreneur with us. He's the owner of the Tante Sofia restaurant and the caramel workshops chain, and he is also a graduate of the Lviv Business School. Andriy, greetings, glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. In the past 2 days, we've been focusing on business issues in this studio. Stanislav and I strolled around the central part of the city yesterday because we wanted to get some lunch, and we saw that most of the eating places were closed. So what is the current situation in terms of small and medium businesses, in particular restaurants? On day one of the war, everyone was shocked, and we let all the staff go because they all have families. Someone had to pack their anxiety suitcases and things like that. So the first day of the war came as a shock to everyone, including me. But when this happened, everyone stopped thinking about business, but we already have the experience of 2014 and 2015. We had a better understanding of what had to be done. So we realized that we would have to reconfigure our logistics. If the threat is coming from the east, then Lviv will be a humanitarian corridor and transit point. So it was not really something completely new for us. Those people who worked in teams were engaged as well. Because of this crisis situation, we had to respond quickly, we had to self-organize, volunteers, refugees.
поступово починають люди
We
психологічно
are
звикають
2 weeks
до того,
into the war now, and I think that people are psychologically more adjusted to the new reality. We do understand that a lot of people do not have a financial cushion, and they need to live off something.
Наприклад, в нас кухарі,
Our cooks,
практично
for
дуже
example,
багато кухарів зі всіх закладів відправили зразу на арену Львів. У нас там є
were
компанія
sent to
Arena Catering, так, і
Arena
там велика
Lviv
кухня, і на цій базі ми
because
почали
there is a
готувати,
large
дуже багато,
kitchen there,
і
and
відповідно не було просто
they
ким працювати.
use this kitchen
Тобто зараз воно вже
to
плюс-мінус стабілізовується,
make
багато
food on a
з'явилося
voluntary
волонтерів, які
basis.
приїжджають і зі Сходу
Now the situation is more stable. We have many volunteers from the eastern part of Ukraine.
Ви вже можете забрати своїх кухарів.
можна вже якось це
So now
організувати,
you can
так, що
have
можна
your cooks
почати,
back,
ну,
right?
відкривати заклади, якщо
Exactly.
вони
I think
починають
that we can
відкриватися.
start
Ми
reopening
говорили також
our
про те, що
restaurants.
зараз бракує дуже через логістичні проблеми сировини,
Because
те, що
of
виготовляти в
issues
ресторанах
with
їжу.
logistics,
Яка ситуація
there's a
із цим?
shortage of raw
І
materials
в
and
Канте Софії,
ingredients.
і ви точно спілкуєтеся
What
з
is
іншими
the
операторами.
situation with logistics in Tanta Sofia and other institutions of yours? That's true because we sent a lot of food for military purposes. We need to understand that all logistic and supply chains have been disrupted. A lot of ways are overloaded, and it takes a long time for supplies to arrive. We still have some inventory, but in the future, we need to give more thorough thought to
Тобто ви
it.
зараз пропрацьовуєте оці кризові шляхи, де брати
So
сировину
you
для того,
are
щоб відновити
elaborating
і так
different
далі.
scenarios
В
right
зв'язку з
now,
подіями у вас
contingencies.
багато працівників
Exactly.
виїхало за кордон, бо ми тут
How
обговорювали цифру
many
десь
of
на
your
рівні
staff
15%,
left
така середня
abroad? Because we
температура по
believe that the
дрібному,
average
середньому бізнесу,
percentage
якщо говорити
is
про
about
ваш бізнес.
15%.
Ну, дивіться, у нас,
I'm talking about SMEs. What about your business?
зразу в армію, так, тому що вони
Some of our
служили,
staff
так, відповідно,
joined the ranks
вони,
of the army
їх
because
призвали,
they
і
served in the
вони
army
пішли в
before.
армію.
They
Частина,
were
звичайно,
drafted
поїхала,
and
там,
they
що
went there.
стосується жінок, вони поїхали там
Some
до себе, до
women
родин. Вони,
went back
якщо
to
вони
their
проживають
homes, to
постійно у
their
Львові, так, то вони
families,
поїхали десь там по селах,
because
по Львівській області
they
чи
were
по
not
містечках.
permanent residents of Lviv. So they went back to some smaller towns in Lviv
Зараз
region or even other
спробуємо,
regions.
Люди розуміють цю відповідальність, розуміють складнощі, які є.
People understand the responsibility on their shoulders, understand the current difficulties. We try to employ young people from the eastern part of Ukraine because they also need to make their living. They try to volunteer, but they also need to have some source of income because we don't want them to walk around and ask for help. But that means that you have to optimize your processes. Definitely. Well, the pandemic has trained us quite well in the past 2 years. Yeah, a lot of people say that the pandemic braced us for many different scenarios. Definitely, especially businesses. On Friday, we are planning to open a Dublin pub. No alcohol, but some people really missed good meat, good steak, and we are looking for good meat right now. We're not even sure that we will be able to find it on the market. We have been talking a lot about the future, about the actions of the economic department from the regional government. What is missing from the authorities? What do you expect of them? Well, the authorities should not interfere to start with. In Lviv, business is much better at self-organizing in comparison with the regional government. So when the government comes up with an idea, we are already implementing it.
Де ми об'єднуємо добровольців, тобто на базі компанії Регно, і
we have the regional company, and we have some volunteers there, large warehouses in Poland, large warehouses here. We document their telephone numbers and passport data. We verify and double check. And so when people from the regional administration come to us with an inspection, we can show all the documents. We are definitely in tighter contact with them, but that happened maybe on day 7 or 8. And by that time, we had everything ready. We had security around some critical facilities. We were heavily engaged in collecting humanitarian aid. What else do we need from them? You know what? Well, very often you do something good, and then you are punished for it because you forgot about a paper or a document. So I have just one request to our regional government officials. A lot of people do things right now for free on a voluntary basis. They even invest their own money to ensure the stability of our economy and business processes. So do not impose some silly procedures on us because sometimes we are punished for not having a piece of paper or a document. So we need to focus more on performance and results. Tante Sofia is part of the restaurant business, and there are some refugees in Lviv who can afford to go out and pay for dinner. So you can have some proceeds, you can pay salaries, you can pay taxes. This way you can support the armed forces. But as for the caramel workshop, this is not a basic food product. Well, first of all, a lot of children have come in Lviv, but we do everything manually. We can produce caramel from different materials. We can produce Russian ships, the notorious Russian ships. But I guess we need to do something to put smiles on the faces of people, to help people receive at least a semblance of normalcy. So why not do something manually and even laugh at it? Do you need to invest a lot to keep your business afloat? It's not even about staying afloat. From day 1 of the war, we've been engaged in different activities and engagements because you cannot twiddle your thumbs and stay at home. So at 8 a.m., we would go to the command post, and sometimes we were back home at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I didn't even have enough time to think about keeping my business afloat because there were a lot of logistic assignments that I had to attend to. Right now, no one is thinking about profits. I mean the entire business environment. We are restaurant owners and entrepreneurs. We have nothing to do with the military, but we all are thinking about just one thing: how to pay salaries to our staff, how to feed their families, and as soon as you receive some money, you donate that money for military purposes, and all our staff members serve as volunteers as well. Some companies are moving from other regions here because we have some production facilities. What about Roshan? Did they approach you? No, they didn't, but there's one important issue that I want to raise on behalf of all entrepreneurs. I would like to
Ви ж працювали
address rent givers.
місяці? Ну, неважливо, що ви працювали там 15 днів, що ви відкрили просто для того, щоб якось втримати людей.
Because they tell us, well, but you were open for 15 days. And they don't really want to think that even though we were open for 15 days, there was no income. There are people, owners, who understand the situation, but some of the owners live in a different planet. Because they tell you, if you do not pay the rent, we will find a different tenant tomorrow. Or some of them increase the rent twofold or threefold. But the owners that you work with, are they from Lviv? Most of them are from Lviv. Well, maybe we can communicate the information to the Lviv Regional State Administration. Maybe some of the municipal and regional facilities can be used, because we already had that experience during the pandemic. It's all commercial rent, and the prices were set for peace times. And by and large, people don't really care that you have some of your staff members serving in the army, or you have your staff volunteering. So I just have a big request to all owners. Please understand the responsibility that we all have on our shoulders. I have two questions. We keep joking that very soon, instead of an IT capital, Lviv will turn into an agri capital. But do you think that because of the current situation, the agribusiness and farms in Lviv region will receive impetus? We did some things of this kind even before the war. And some of us are already cooperating with the local farms. But I'm not sure that these farmers are ready to seed and plant, so I'm not really sure that they are ready to seed and then harvest, because there's always a risk of being bombarded. I also have a philosophical and motivational question. We've been talking a lot about who left, who didn't leave. What about your wife, your children, and colleagues? They're all here, right? You had an opportunity to leave and live abroad. Why didn't you leave? Well, I didn't even think about that. I mean, this is my land. I was born here. All my dear ones and family members are here. We didn't even talk about it. When your daughter comes to you and you see tears in her eyes, and understand that she's gripped by fear, a fear that she cannot really comprehend. And then she asks me, Dad, why are we still here? Why aren't we going anywhere? So you cannot really forgive things like that. I don't even know what else to say. I don't really have any other answer to the question why I didn't leave. I'm not ready to escape. We help with territorial defense. We help with checkpoints. We train people on a daily basis. We receive support from different professionals like first aid, tactical medicine, interaction between combat units. We are bracing ourselves to fight for our land. Yeah, we talked about motivation. We don't want to judge the decisions of different people, but those who stayed here all say that this is their land and they don't want to go anywhere. So this is a very robust motivation. During the first days, place, we showed a video of a guy from the front line. I don't really remember who exactly that was. It was a military guy who said that Putin made one miscalculation because he didn't explore the psychology of Ukrainians. We can argue like neighbors, we can argue like rivals and competitors, but when it's a matter of our land, we will stand side by side and we will fiercely fight for our land. And I guess it's the same in the business environment. Exactly. We're not even thinking about being rivals or competitors. We receive dozens of humanitarian trucks day in, day out, and everyone is ready to contribute with the warehouses, with vehicles, with the workforce. Just one example. We needed 5,000 Porsches of something for Arena Lviv. I called my friend from a meat company and told him that we needed meat, and then in some time the truck was there with 400 kilos of meat, and when I asked him how much, he said nothing. Well, you will sort it out later, right? Stanislav, if you don't have any questions, then I just want to thank Andrei. Well, I know your company, I know how busy you are. It was very difficult for us to catch you during the last 3 days, so thank you very much. We will definitely win, it's just a matter of time. But the victory will definitely come. Thank you, glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Thank you. There is just one thing I wanted to add. Maria wanted to go to Tanta Sophie, so she has a chance to go there. In Vindiki, not only do we have a school, but we will also have a bunker, a sort of bomb shelter. What is it and what did they do to it? Another TV story. An inconspicuous cabin in the midst of a forest, but it's an entrance to a bomb shelter. 5 meters of soil separates it from the surface. Then you can see a heavy metal door. Their thickness is about 20 centimeters. Behind the door, dozens of rooms, passages. You can easily get lost without a map, and quite recently it was not possible. It was filled with construction materials, brick, debris. We all got together and cleared it. Whoever knew how to use a door produced a door. We purchased bulbs, and people brought whatever they could from home. Vindiki volunteers supported this endeavor. I saw a notice and I rushed here, and I'm trying to help with whatever I can. I cannot fight in the front line, but I'm ready to support with money, with labor. This 2-storied underground bunker will have leisure, medical and managerial facilities. In case of emergency, the bomb shelter will have generators that will continue supplying energy. They also want to have internet and continuous water supply. At a distance of several dozens of meters, there's another bomb shelter, and these facilities should be able to endure artillery shelling and even a nuclear explosion. People should be able to live here for several months. There are 3 similar bomb shelters in Vindiki. We also have a bomb shelter of the previous eye hospital, and we also have a military hospital. They also boast a bomb shelter. It will be used for patients and doctors in the first place, but it will be open to local residents as well. There are a total of 156 bomb shelters and about 1,000 of different anti-radiation and other facilities at companies.
До сюжету обговорювали ситуацію із бізнесом на Львівщині.
Before this report, we discussed the situation in the business sector. And based on our last conversation, we heard that a lot of entrepreneurs and staff members are engaged as volunteers or in the military. The international business is active as well. Mr. Klitschko reported that 100 million euros were raised from the German business. If the video is ready, then we will have a look at it. I would like to express my gratitude to our German friends. My brother and I approached businesses and ordinary citizens with a request to help Ukraine and Ukrainians who are heroically fighting for our independence. Within several days, we have been able to raise upwards of 100 million euros and collect humanitarian aid, medications, essentials, personal hygiene items, and all these things are already in Ukraine. This aid is of paramount importance. Do not stop there. Keep it up. We are back at the studio of Перший Західний TV channel. Before I read out some news, please have a look at two memes. These are some new requirements from Russia.
Там насправді дуже глибокий посил, тому що Макдональдс
закрив,
там ще було
a
картоплі-фрі.
deep message. McDonald's is closed. French fries, I think there were some posts on the internet, buy the last Coke, buy the last hamburger. But I think it's very interesting that the closure of McDonald's touched the Russians to the roar, that it's such a big loss for them. But we need to clarify that McDonald's did not really close completely. They just closed their restaurants, and it's a gradual process. And McDonald's paid the salaries to their staff until the 1st of June. Why is it so painful for the Russians? It's not a matter of French fries, it's not a matter of Coke or cheeseburger. The matter is that every year they discussed this photo depicting a long line to the first McDonald's restaurant in Russia. And for them, it was like a new lease of life. So for Russia, McDonald's was a symbol, and now the symbol is taken away from them. So it's not about French fries. So in the US, they have the Statue of Liberty, and in Russia, they have McDonald's. Another meme, what is happening in Ukraine? Well, we have this show called House is on NATO. We have this show called House is on Dead, but now it's like House is on NATO. But now onto the topic of something different. Do not burn grass. I mean, it's important not to do that even in peace times. And this is something that was posted by the Volyn Regional State Administration. I'm assured that a similar post will appear in Lviv. Do not support the enemies. And if you create this smoke curtain, our soldiers will not be able to see anything. So do not support the enemies. I really like this photograph because it clearly depicts the problem that we have. So once again, a big request. If you see your neighbors burning the grass, I think the fine amounts to 17.5 thousand hryvnia. Сергій Надаль provides the following situation. As a result of shelling in this town of Rubishne, one injured person was identified on Mendeleyeva Street. Two people were injured, then shelling in Severodonetsk. One dead person was identified on Kurchatova Street, grocery stores. Some of the strand apartments were shelled as well. They are on fire, so most likely there will be even more casualties. And right now we can see that mostly civilians are being shelled. There's another fake disseminating in Russia that our military are shelling the medical vehicles of the Russian Federation. So it's true that the medical vehicles are being shelled by our soldiers, but these medical vehicles are used for transporting ammunition. And when our armed forces identify such medical vehicles, they destroy them. We have some videos on Facebook, and later I will try to show them to you, just for you to see that instead of injured, you see dozens of boxes with ammunition. And that's why
Тому, коли ви чуєте новини про обстріли нібито поранених росіян, про те, що не дозволяють їх евакуювати, це не відповідає дійсності. Навпаки, росіяни ці машини використовують для перевезення боєзапасу.
Згадували сьогодні, однією з головних тем є тристороння зустріч глав МЗС України, Росії і Туреччини. Ми вже мали заяви по закінченню цієї зустрічі від Лаврова, керівника МЗС Росії. Він заявив, натякнув на те, що з результатами зустрічі йшлося про
according to the results of the meeting, we may say that they spoke about the possible organization of the meeting between Zelensky and Putin. And there is also some recent information from the head of the foreign ministry of Turkey. He says that really during that meeting between the three ministers, they spoke about the organization of that meeting, about the prospects of having such a meeting. And this meeting was discussed, and Mr. Çavuşoğlu, who is the head of the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Turkey, he says that this is true. Besides that, he has mentioned that Turkey is considered to be as one of the possible guarantors of the ceasefire in Ukraine. Most probably the Turks wanted to be involved in the process, and they acted as those guarantors. But the main piece of news is that anyway the meeting was under discussion, the whole idea was under discussion. And Mr. Lavrov has informed that they speak about the so-called Belarus track. I understand that they want to have this meeting in the Belarus territory. It's unlikely that this is a realistic scenario. It's also not realistic that Putin will have a meeting with Zelensky, or that Zelensky would be willing to have a meeting with Putin. But anyway, that is possible, and at least today in Ankara they discussed this issue. I think that this is the issue of fear and security. Putin will be afraid of having a meeting in any country. In Belarus, he may have it, but even in Belarus, he is not that safe. And I'm not sure that Zelensky should go to Belarus, because there is a risk that Belarus will not be able to guarantee his security. It's one thing when an advisor of the presidential office comes there, or a minister comes there, but the other thing is when a president of the country who has already been tried to matter comes there, and we know that the Ukrainian delegation is always taking some roundabout ways to get to Belarus because of the possible attacks. Yeah, it's the same as the promise of Russians not to fire at humanitarian corridors. They claim that they would ensure security, but you remember the first meeting when the Belarus representative said that we will ensure security, and it was not secure. I don't think that the representatives of the Ukrainian side really felt secure, because nobody could trust either the Russian or the Belarus side. There is information about the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Belarus dictator Lukashenko has entrusted Belarus operators to provide access, to provide electricity there, and they speak not that much about the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, but about the fact that since the very first days there is the opposition, the conflict in Russia between Kadyrov and Federal Security Service, and Putin has such a conflict with Kadyrov, and the fact that Kadyrov squad guys have taken the Chernobyl nuclear power plant is a kind of a testimony to that, because it would generally be easy for Putin to give a command to Kadyrov's squad, but no, they are doing this from the Belarus side. Well, let's wait, because the energy networks were connected, but this definitely means that nobody can ever control what is happening there. And probably from the Belarus territory, some Belarus experts will come to Chernobyl. But it may also be possible that some military units of the Belarus army will try to disguise themselves as the operators of nuclear power units and repairmen. Anyway, we may speak here about the internal problem in Russia, and also we can see that besides aerodrome, Belarus is being involved in the very conflict in the territory of Ukraine. You know, Shoigu and Putin have discussed the issue of Ukraine. I don't know how much they are concerned about it, but the Chancellor of Germany and the President of France have had telephone talks with the President of the Russian Federation today, and they have discussed, of course, the only issue which is now under discussion. This is the situation in Ukraine, and the spokesman of the Kremlin, Mr. Peskov, after that talk, said that the leaders of the states kept discussing the issue of Ukraine. He didn't share any details, but getting back to the meeting of Lavrov with the ministers of foreign affairs in Turkey, I must mention that he claimed there that Russia is not attacking other countries, so French people, Germans, Poles shouldn't be concerned about that. There will be no attacks in other countries. But taking into account the fact what Russia does in Ukraine, if I were a French lady or a German lady or lived in any other European country, I would be rather concerned and cautious about the promises of the representatives of this state. They are afraid of that and concerned about that. And we know that the US is going to send the Patriot system to the Poles, and this is a definite manifestation of fear. And you know, Ukrainians have killed so many Russians and destroyed so much of their military vehicles over 15 days, as the Russians have never lost throughout their history. And I guess that this is a problem of their analytical centers, that they don't see this. They don't understand what the overall situation here is, what the local situation is. You know, when you enter the Department of History, right at the first class, you said that never, if you want to be a historian, don't try to assess the events somewhere from your bell tower, so to say. You cannot consider that 100 years ago the situation was the same. And this is the problem. Germans, French people, Poles are trying to assess the relationship between Russia and Ukraine from their point of view, from the point of view of their relationship, and they don't fully understand what is really happening here. They don't understand the behavior of Ukrainians, because it doesn't look like the conduct of people in other countries where they were involved in military conflicts, and not the one they have in America, in Germany, or anywhere else. If we keep speaking about practical assistance, I must say that at the diplomatic front, they still try to support Ukraine with some initiatives, and today the Lithuanian Seimas unanimously supported the resolution urging the EU to provide the status of the EU candidate to Ukraine. The same resolution was passed yesterday or the day before yesterday by the Senate of Poland. But here we also need to realize a very strategic issue. Lithuanians and Poles have always been supporting Ukraine and its accession to the EU. They've been supporting Ukraine in the European Parliament because these are the countries familiar with the notion of the Soviet Union and all the grief and bad things it has committed. But there are some other countries which have economic relationship with the Russian Federation, so it's much more difficult for them to stop these contacts, and that's why it's more difficult for them to pass a decision on Ukraine's accession to the EU. That's why Lithuania and Poland are not assembled to follow in this story. I mean, that's not yet the final decision. There are 30 countries, almost 30 countries, and if every country supports this decision within its own boundaries, then the EU may pass the final decision. This is only a political decision. We are not speaking here about any economic issues, social issues, any surveys. This is just a political decision, the standpoint of a specific country. It doesn't mean that tomorrow we are going to become the EU member state. That doesn't happen overnight. That may last for 10 or 15 years. We do realize this. But this is an important political step and declaration of their standpoint towards Ukraine. Well, but anyway, if all the EU member states pass such decisions and this process was launched, I think that this could be done within several months if we have political will and enough of practical actions. But so far we see just political will, and this is the political will of just several countries. There is some news from the National Bank. 11.3 billion hryvnias have been transferred by Ukrainians to the army needs, and the National Bank watches the needs, and within every day we have more than 400 million. And this is only the account of the National Bank, but there are also some other accounts. And here is some more optimistic piece of news. In our studio, you can see a good expert on economic issues, Alexei Druhov, and you saw him. And here he's written his webpage that in Russia, somebody is ready to pay 999 rubles per $1 because they don't have foreign currency, they can buy it, there are restrictions, and there are people who are ready to pay such a high price in rubles. Alexei Druhov has written on his page that the paper with the mark of Russian ruble are good for nothing. They are not even worth the ink spent on their issuance. 999 rubles per dollar. While before the war, the exchange rate was about 70 rubles per dollar, and now they're ready to pay, some of them are ready to pay almost 1,000. Well, they have been fighting for that. The operational commandment of the northern area says that over 15 days, Chernihiv region has been defended by the armed forces of Ukraine, and the enemy is not allowed to go to Kyiv. As a result, we have tens of vehicles, military machineries, hundreds of perished, and Alexander Dovichenko, a lieutenant, has destroyed one column of tanks. It was on one day it was the armored vehicle, on the other one it was a tank, and still something. And soldier Maxim Fosenko has also destroyed one of the vehicles which was supplying oil. Vladislav Slivchenko on the 3rd of March destroyed the armored vehicle, and at the same positions in Chernihiv region, Vyacheslav Dyktarenko, sergeant, and one soldier also destroyed an armored vehicle. And the day before, Serhiy Kabanenko did the same. Dmitro Lysenko and Dmitro Voronova have destroyed a Russian tank. The next day, Stanislav Solzhenko hit the Su-134, and that very day, Lieutenant Yevhen Kolyvalchuk gunned the fire, and as a result of that, they hit the enemy and stopped the enemy. Lieutenant Lilia Kudinova was gunning the fire of the mortar. In Chernihiv region, two soldiers, as a result of the combat actions, hit and destroyed 2 tanks, and a senior soldier with one
Усі дані надані командуванням однієї
shall destroy the drone.
командування північ.
So this is the data from the north, and of course these soldiers will get state awards for their actions. And this is only one military unit, and it would be pleasant to hear the news from different military units. And it's very good that specific names of people are mentioned. These are the people who are destroying the enemy, and it's really important to have specific people who are heroes, to see specific faces of the Ukrainian army and Ukrainian defenders whom we could see, support, and then help them when time comes for that. An important component in our information flow is Chernobyl nuclear power plant. And you know, it's an interesting story. We tend to go from Zaporizhzhia to Chernobyl nuclear power plant, then we forget about Zaporizhzhia, though it's controlled by the invaders, and we go to Chernobyl nuclear power plant and start thinking about it. So this shows how the enemy knows how to manipulate us. But the Ministry of Energy provides information that they do their best to restore power at the nuclear power plant, and they claim that the Minister of Energy, Herman Halushchenko, has addressed international communities, asking them to influence the situation, because nuclear terrorism is not only using nuclear weapons, but that's when you're pressing their staff, and the staff can make mistakes as a result of that, or as a result of being under pressure. He says that so far electricity to Chernobyl nuclear power plant is provided by the generators that are currently in operation. These are additional lines, additional generators. And yesterday, there was a firing at their electricity, at the power station that provided electricity to the NPP. They still have some generators, some capacities, but he says that they have sent several requests to the occupiers, asking them to let the repair brigades in for them to restore the lines. But so far they haven't got any single reply, and the minister is shocked by how the staff keeps working both at Chernobyl and at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plants. They are under occupation. They've been staying under occupation for several days, and they are both under physical and emotional pressure, but still they are doing this. So we are urging the international community to asking to react, because it's important not only for Ukraine or for the neighboring countries, but for Europe as a whole. We've been speaking about medicine, the situation in our region, and the Minister of Health, Viktor Lyashko, has stated that all in all, Russians have fired at 63 Ukrainian hospitals. The situation with healthcare institutions is still controlled in the territory where we can ensure any control. 63 hospitals fired at by Russian terrorists in Ukraine. Unfortunately, as a result of such fires, we have lost about 5 HCPs. More than 10 of them have been wounded, and they cannot work any longer. That is what he mentioned in the joint news marathon. It's also important that traitors are noticed, are not left without punishment, and the State Investigation Bureau is making investigations in 38 proceedings concerning the law enforcement agencies, officers, and officials who held the Russian propagandists. And the investigators have launched criminal proceedings in relation to several police officers in Mariupol and Kherson. These are the cases about treason, because they have moved to the enemy's side. This is still a good figure, I would say. 38 as compared to what Ukraine had in 2015 is a very good figure. It's not that much. Of course, we always have traitors, and we hope that we also have traitors in Russia, and we hope that they will be more active. But this time we can claim that actually everything is controlled, and we won't have that situation when the traitors do their bad actions and keep living. You know, Personally, for me, the worst thing is when the Commissioner on Human Rights of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, Людмила Денисова, reports about the number of children killed and people killed. So, starting with the beginning of the Russia's invasion, 71 children have been perished and about 100 children have been wounded. That is the information from Denisova's Telegram channel. And if we speak about data, in Volhynia, the Zhytomyr region, as a result of the airstrike, 7 one-story buildings were destroyed, 5 people died, out of them 2 are children. These are the children born in 2021, just 1 year old. A 16-year-old boy was shot during the market firing in the village of Zhukovsky, and in the night time, one more artillery shelling destroyed a residential building, and under the wreckage 4 people died, 2 women and 2 girls, and 1 5-year-old girl was rescued. Denisova claims that this invasion and the atrocities committed by the guerrillas have gone beyond any red lines, and Ukraine is paying the greatest, the highest price ever possible for its future. So it's once again that Denisova is addressing the NATO member states, asking them to somehow terminate this Russian terrorism, and she addresses them with their no-fly zone request, because the number of victims is increasing, particularly if we speak about children. Nobody can be left indifferent about such losses, and we keep wondering why the European countries and the NATO member states cannot understand this and cannot perceive this as the Third World War that has already been launched and has been lasting for 15 days. There is a message from the Ministry of Defense. Close to Brovary, at the night time, the head of the tank regiment, Mr. Zakharov, with having Putin's award, was destroyed, and today we had some talks intercepted, and it was mentioned that one of the generals was killed, and it was not only the commander killed, but a number of officers who were wounded perished. And this is really important, since, to tell the truth, one killed Russian soldier costs several hundreds of soldiers, because if there is no officer or general, the army becomes less controlled, it passes wrong decisions, and it is much easier to besiege them or to make them captive. That's the same as to leave a snake without a head. It cannot poison you any longer. There is also some information, economic news. International money transfer system support Ukraine. The National Bank claims that free of charge services for Ukrainians and are already available in Western Union, MoneyGram, Money Transfer, Intel Express, and TransferGo. And besides that, some of these companies even support the organization Save the Children, which aims to help millions of Ukrainian children affected by the war, and they activate their global network to get donations, which you can then transfer to Ukrainian children. So they try to communicate with their clients. On that point, they try to collect the money which will further be spent on the children who need this as a result of the military actions of the Russian Federation. It's important that Great Britain keeps supporting Ukraine. It has expanded the list of oligarchs on whom sanctions have been imposed, which includes now Mr. Deripaska and Abramovich. Also, Sechin, Kostin, Miller, which is Gazprom, Igorь, Lebedev. Well, these names probably don't say anything to you, but these are people who are important for Putin. This is his first circle of communication, and these are the people who are trying to give money to him as well. As you know, that Great Britain has always been the island of freedom for Russian oligarchs. They used to go there to invest money there, but now Britain is no longer such an island for them, and this is a severe blow on the financial savings of Russian oligarchs, including Putin. And this will make them start thinking quicker. Volodymyr Zelensky has signed the law on expropriation, which is the process when, having no damage to yourself, you can alienate the property that belongs to the residents of the Russian Federation. And since the Russian Federation has launched the war on Ukraine, so why wouldn't we take the property of its citizens? There has already been a publication of this law. It has been enacted, and it says about compulsory expropriation of the ownership of the Russian Federation, and there will be no compensation, both in terms of the property of the Russian Federation and its residents, due to the war which the Russian Federation has launched on the Ukrainian people. Their decision on compulsory expropriation of the property of the RF and its residents will be passed by the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, will be enacted by the decree of the president. That's why we have some property items. Nobody is going to inform to ask about that. They will just have a decision and liquidate this property, expropriate it. And I think that journalists, investigative journalists, will help with this, because they are rather good at detecting such things when seemingly there is a Ukrainian owner, but in fact the property belongs to the Russians. So let's wait for specific first decisions. Yeah, there are mechanisms, there are principles, but it's also important to find such property. And of course, Ukraine will not behave the way Russia and its looters behave and take somebody's property in spite of all the international rules. This will all be done on the legal grounds. We have the law and everything is prescribed there. The British intelligence officers informed that the air activity of Russia over Ukraine has become not that intense. The only thing is that civilians still suffer from that, and the Ministry of Defense informs that the column of vehicles to the north from Kyiv is having some losses and has not made progress, and air attacks have become less intense, probably due to unexpected resistance of the air forces and the armed forces of Ukraine. And here we should say one more thank you to the armed forces of Ukraine and the air forces of Ukraine, because nobody expected that to happen. In fact, all the analytical articles said that we don't have any air forces, and the guys did not object to that. They were staying calm for the enemy not to know what is happening, but now we can see that they are rather efficient, and this helps us live a better way. Were it not for our air forces, the situation would have been much worse, and the only thing the enemy can now do is attack fire at civilians in some areas where there are some gaps. You know, air defense belongs to the most expensive systems available in every country, and their method sometimes is that our radars, when the shells are fired and missiles are fired from the Russian territory, they cannot act. But for them to act and for us to act also here in the rear, we have the Cabinet of Ministers being active, and we have had a talk about this with Stepan Kuybida from the military administration. The cabinet really responds very quickly to all the needs of businesses and other branches. So here is a piece of information that the cabinet has expanded the list of critical import. Now it includes transportation of passengers and cargoes, internet communication, barley, rape, seeds, different fertilizers, agricultural vehicles, guns, sports, and also fire weapons. These are the new items which are being included into the list of commodities which are considered to be critical import. There is the resolution on that. We can see its number. You can find it on the website, and also sound, video, and radio equipment is included into this list. These are not TVs, not tape recorders. These are the things which are necessary for the front line, and also it includes some dyes, paints and lacquers, varnishes, rubber, hoses, wooden boxes. You can find the exhaustive list in the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers. You may get acquainted with it. In particular, if you're now dealing with the issues of import, humanitarian aid, that is going to be really useful, since this list needed to be expanded. As you can see, the Cabinet of Ministers quickly responded to that. Besides that, the government has allowed to sell foodstuffs in Ukraine with their labeling not in the official language, because you remember that there was a commitment that all the foodstuffs and products should be labeled in the official language, because we have Sviatoslav Lutinsky here in the corner crying because he was fighting for that for years to have labeling. But that is on a temporary basis. That is a temporary phenomenon. We understand that now we need to simplify all the importing procedures to have goods from abroad, which are essentials, which are critically necessary for Ukraine. That's why the Cabinet of Ministers has stopped this rule on a temporary basis, and operators of foodstuff markets can sell products which are not labeled in the official Ukrainian language in case they can provide information about such foodstuffs upon the buyer's request, which means that the labeling could be only in the language of the country from which they have brought the foodstuffs. Here is some information about Mariupol. People cannot be evacuated from Mariupol, and humanitarian aid is not allowed to enter the city. And here is some clarification. Russia clearly understands that it is firing at maternity clinics and hospitals, and this is what Lavrov confirmed during the press conference. Everybody was sure that, or rather trying to assure that these are the Azov combatants. But I think that even pregnant women are going to take weapons into their hands if you keep behaving like that. Because knowing that this is a maternity hospital, you are now trying to rectify the mistake, saying that there were combatants there. This is a wild action, and this is just one more confirmation of genocide. And here is some difference between Russians and Ukrainians. Are you talking about the girl? No, the girls are definitely more beautiful, but I spoke here about the girl who saved a dog. No. If one of the leaders of the Ukrainian company had stolen some $2 billion, well, this would never have happened. He would be punished. Bloomberg informs that Russia has repaid its bonds for $2 billion. And Putin said that this should be repaid in the equivalent, in rubles, in the equivalent to the exchange rate. So, it's unbelievable. But it's interesting that seemingly they have repaid the bonds, and nobody knows when, but they have paid it in cash and in dollars. And I've got a suspicion that actually Russians have taken cash from state-owned companies, $2 billion, in order to have this cash in their hands, because they know that they don't have any access to any other money. Just $2 billion have been stolen, but Russians don't understand why it's so happening. We are a peaceful nation, and now we are at McDonald's. We will have a break soon, but concerning girls and Fedorov, I'm not going to speak about digitalization, but Mr. Fedorov in his Facebook has placed a picture which rightfully shows the essence and values of the Ukrainian people. You can see this picture in the screen. A girl near Irpin is trying to rescue dogs with special needs. These are the dogs from the pet shelter, and she's trying to take them to a safe place. I think that this picture will be on the first pages of all the editions, foreign editions, because it's really illustrative. It shows that this is Irpin, which is under fire, from which it's impossible to get evacuated. But the girl is taking care of dogs with disabilities and special needs. And these are the dogs who cannot leave Irpin on their own, and she is trying to help them, to rescue them. And I think that even parents in Ukraine are patriotic. We were supposed to show this video yesterday, but our producer Irena Martanyuk is asking us to show this video right now before the break. And we'll get back at 6 o'clock with the new news bulletin, new guest information from Ukraine and from new regions. Quiet, quiet, don't be afraid. Great, glory to Ukraine. You're great.
І на оновленій землі врага не буде
And
супостата.
there will be no
А буде
enemy on the
син,
renewed
і буде
land.
мати,
There will be
і
son, there
будуть
will be
люди
mother,
на землі.
and there will be people on the earth. Here is the anthem of Ukraine.